Have you ever felt like someone in your life only reaches out when they need something? Maybe it's that one friend who suddenly remembers you exist when they need a favor. Or a boss who constantly asks you to stay late but never acknowledges your hard work. What about a partner who insists you buy them the latest gadget they've been eyeing without ever offering the same in return? If any of this sounds familiar, you might be getting used. And let's be honest, it hurts. At Stoic Training, we're here to remind you of one simple truth. You are valuable. You can't control how others treat you, but you can control how you respond. In today's video, we're breaking down 8 warning signs that someone might be using you, and more importantly, how to stand your ground, set boundaries, and reclaim your peace of mind. So, grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and let's dive in. Before we begin, if you find this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It helps us grow and bring you more content on mastering relationships with Stoic wisdom. 1. They only show up when they need something. Imagine you have a co-worker named Sarah. She's all smiles when she needs last-minute help with a project. She praises your skills, gives you her full attention, and makes you feel like an important part of the team. But once the work is done, she disappears. When you invite her for coffee or just try to have a normal conversation, she's suddenly too busy or doesn't even bother to respond. This is a classic case of a one-sided relationship, where someone treats you like a tool rather than a valued friend or colleague. While asking for help is normal, it becomes a problem when it's the only time they reach out. This type of behavior can be seen in different relationships, from friendships to the workplace. A friend who only messages when they need emotional support but disappears when you need the same is a red flag. A family member who constantly asks for financial help but is never there for you in return is another example. Recognize the pattern. If someone consistently takes but never gives, set boundaries. You have every right to say no if your efforts are being taken for granted. Ask yourself, does this person genuinely care about me, or do they only care about what I can do for them? Reevaluate their role. If the answer is no, it may be time to limit their influence in your life. Stoicism teaches us that true peace comes from focusing on what we can control, so don't let energy-draining relationships disrupt your well-being. A helpful practice is to detach emotionally from the expectation that people will always reciprocate kindness. This does not mean becoming cynical, but rather understanding that some people are simply transactional by nature. Instead of taking it personally, accept that you can choose whom to invest your energy in. Another strategy is to gradually reduce your availability. If Sarah only reaches out when she needs help, politely but firmly tell her that you're busy next time she asks for a favor. Observe how she reacts. If she disappears again, that confirms the nature of the relationship. If she genuinely values you, she may attempt to engage more meaningfully. Surround yourself with people who respect and value your time and efforts. True relationships are based on mutual care and support, not just convenience. 2. They make promises, but never follow through. We all know a Mike. Mike is that friend who always volunteers to help, says things like, "I got this," or "Don't worry, leave it to me." But when the time comes, radio silence, no calls, no follow-ups, no action. At first you might excuse it, maybe he's just busy. But over time, the pattern becomes clear. His words mean nothing. People like this often overpromise to impress others, or worse, they simply don't care how their actions affect you. And the result? Broken trust and constant disappointment. This behavior can be frustrating and exhausting. Imagine relying on Mike for something crucial, a ride to an important meeting, help with moving furniture or assisting with an event, only to find out at the last moment that he has completely forgotten or has made other plans. This can leave you scrambling to fix the situation alone. Stop relying on them. If someone repeatedly lets you down, adjust your expectations. Watch their actions. Actions, not words, reveal a person's true character. Hold people accountable. If they don't show up when it matters, it's time to reconsider their place in your life. To avoid getting stuck in this cycle, establish clear boundaries with people who consistently fail to keep their word. Instead of expecting Mike to follow through, have a backup plan. If you still choose to interact with unreliable people, limit their influence on important aspects of your life. Another approach is direct communication. Call out the pattern. I've noticed that you often say you'll help, but when the time comes, you're unavailable. I need people I can rely on. This puts them in a position to either change their behavior or reveal that they were never dependable to begin with. Finally, focus on fostering relationships with people who demonstrate reliability. Whether in friendships, business, or romantic relationships, look for individuals whose actions align with their words. Reliability builds trust, and trust is the foundation of any meaningful connection. 3. You have to walk on eggshells around them. Have you ever felt like you had to tiptoe around someone, carefully choosing every word for fear of their reaction? Not because you're being polite or considerate, but because the wrong word, tone, or expression might trigger an outburst, passive-aggressive response, or even complete withdrawal. This situation can play out in various types of relationships, whether with a boss, a romantic partner, a family member, or a friend. Maybe your boss subtly makes you feel guilty for setting boundaries, implying that taking time off or prioritizing your well-being makes you less dedicated. Perhaps your partner punishes you with the silent treatment when you express a differing opinion, leaving you to question whether speaking your mind is worth the emotional Cold War. Or it could be a friend who constantly twists your words, making you seem like the bad guy in every situation. Over time, this dynamic forces you into a cycle of self-censorship. You start prioritizing their comfort over your own truth. You second-guess your words and actions, feeling the weight of unspoken expectations. The fear of conflict becomes so overwhelming that it conditions you to suppress your needs, your emotions, and even your authentic self. But here's the reality. A healthy relationship doesn't make you feel small. It doesn't force you to shrink yourself just to maintain peace. Real connections thrive on open communication, mutual respect, and the ability to disagree without fear of punishment or emotional backlash. If you find yourself constantly walking on eggshells, ask yourself why. What is the cost of this relationship to your mental and emotional well-being? If someone's approval feels like the price you have to pay for peace, it's a red flag that the relationship may not be as balanced as it should be. Remember this fundamental truth. You are not responsible for managing someone else's emotions at the expense of your own. Your voice matters. Your feelings are valid, and no relationship, no matter how long-standing or seemingly important, is worth sacrificing your sense of self. If someone genuinely cares about you, they will respect your boundaries, listen to your concerns, and create space for honest dialogue. If not, it may be time to reevaluate the role they play in your life. You deserve relationships where you can be yourself without fear. 4. They always assume you'll pay. At first, it seems harmless. Covering for a friend occasionally is no big deal, right? After all, generosity is a part of friendship. But then a pattern starts to emerge. They never offer to split the bill. They always conveniently forget their wallet. When the check comes, they hesitate, waiting for you to reach for it first. When making plans, they suggest the priciest places or activities, yet somehow You're always the one footing the bill. It's subtle at first. Maybe you brush it off as them being forgetful or going through a rough patch. But over time, it stops feeling like generosity on your part and starts feeling like you're being taken advantage of. Take Anna, for example. She went on a trip with a group of friends where everyone agreed to split costs evenly, but one friend, Kevin, always had an excuse. "I'll pay you back later." "Oops, I forgot my card. I'll get you next time." Spoiler alert, he never did. And when Anna finally brought it up, Kevin laughed it off, making her feel like she was the unreasonable one for expecting fairness. If you feel more like an ATM than a valued friend, it's time for an honest conversation. Express how you feel without anger, but with firm clarity. If they truly respect you, they'll acknowledge the imbalance and make an effort to change. If they don't, that tells you everything you need to know about the nature of the relationship. Friendship should never feel transactional, but it also shouldn't be one-sided. You deserve relationships that are built on mutual respect, not financial exploitation. 5. They are only nice when they need something. Have you ever had someone in your life who suddenly becomes incredibly sweet and affectionate right before they need a favor? Maybe it's a friend who rarely reaches out unless they need help moving, borrowing money, or getting advice. Or perhaps it's a coworker who suddenly showers you with compliments only when they need you to cover a shift. It feels good at first. Who doesn't appreciate a kind word or extra attention? But then you notice the pattern. Once they get what they want, they vanish. No follow-ups, no check-ins, no reciprocity. Picture this. You're always the one people turn to when they need emotional support, financial help, or logistical assistance. There's always that one friend who calls at just the right time, when they need a ride across town, help with a project, or a listening ear for their latest crisis. You help because that's just who you are. But when you need support, they're suddenly too busy, unavailable, or dismissive. It stings, doesn't it? Their kindness starts to feel transactional. You're left wondering, do they actually care about me, or am I just convenient? Stoic philosophy teaches us the importance of guarding our peace and recognizing when relationships are draining rather than nourishing us. True connections are built on mutual care and respect, not on one-sided giving. Ask yourself, are you always the one giving while others just take? If so, it's time to set clear boundaries. Start saying no. Observe how they react. Do they stick around even when you're not useful to them? If they genuinely value you, they will respect your limits. If not, they will drift away, revealing the true nature of the relationship. You are not obligated to be someone's emotional, financial, or logistical crutch. You deserve relationships where kindness is given freely, not only when it benefits the other person. Stand firm in your worth, because real friendships aren't about convenience, they're about care. 6. Your loved ones are worried. Have you ever been in a relationship where your loved ones seemed concerned? They might not say it outright, but you can sense it through their glances, subtle hints, or the awkward silence that follows after meeting the other person. They might see something you're unwilling to admit, that you're being taken advantage of. Imagine sitting down with a close friend or family member and hearing them say, "Are you sure this person treats you right?" Or, "I just feel like you're always giving and they're always taking." These words may sting, especially if you deeply care about the individual in question. You might feel defensive, brushing off their concerns as misunderstandings or unwarranted judgments. But before dismissing their words, consider why they feel compelled to speak up. Our loved ones are not bound by the same emotional attachments we have. They can see things more objectively, noticing patterns we tend to overlook. Maybe they've observed how your partner or friend constantly demands your time, energy, or resources, but never reciprocates. Perhaps they've noticed how you always seem exhausted, emotionally drained, or even anxious when dealing with this person. These observations are not made lightly. They stem from genuine concern for your well-being. One of the key teachings of Stoic philosophy is self-awareness. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth." This mindset is crucial when evaluating relationships. If multiple people in your life are voicing the same concerns, it might be time to step back and ask yourself some hard questions. Is this relationship bringing me joy or stress? Am I being valued for who I am or merely for what I provide? Is this connection built on mutual respect or convenience for the other party? Acknowledging these red flags does not mean you must immediately end the relationship. Instead, use this awareness as a starting point. Set boundaries, communicate your feelings, and observe how the other person reacts. Do they respect your concerns, or do they dismiss them? If it's the latter, it may be time to consider whether this relationship is truly serving your best interests. The people who genuinely care about you want what's best for you. Don't underestimate their concern. 7. They never say thank you. Have you ever felt like your kindness was being taken for granted? You're always willing to help, always putting others first, yet all you get in return is silence. Gratitude, even something as simple as a thank you, never seems to come. At first, you might convince yourself they're just forgetful or busy, but over time, this lack of appreciation starts to weigh on you. You begin to feel invisible, as if your efforts are expected rather than appreciated. Imagine a close friend who constantly asks for favors, rides to the airport, help with last-minute tasks, financial support, but never acknowledges your efforts. They don't even offer a simple thank you. Instead, they act as if your help is something they're entitled to. This behavior isn't just frustrating, it's a sign of disrespect. Their lack of gratitude diminishes the importance of your efforts. They take without giving back, turning your kindness into an expectation rather than an act of generosity. Over time, this dynamic can leave you feeling depleted and unappreciated. In Stoic philosophy, gratitude and reciprocity are essential in any relationship. Seneca once said, "He who receives a benefit with gratitude repays the first installment of his debt." This means that appreciation is not just about words, it is an acknowledgement of value. When someone repeatedly fails to recognize your contributions, it signals a fundamental lack of respect. If you find yourself constantly giving without any acknowledgement in return, it's time to reassess. No one deserves to feel unappreciated, especially by those they go out of their way to support. The solution isn't necessarily cutting ties, but setting boundaries. Ask yourself, is my effort being valued? If the answer is no, limit your help and focus on relationships that genuinely appreciate you. This isn't selfish, it's self-preservation. Your kindness is a gift, and gifts like that deserve to be cherished. 8. You begin to dislike them. Have you ever found yourself feeling irritated or even resenting someone you were once close to? A relationship that once brought joy now leaves you feeling drained and exhausted. Every interaction starts to feel like a burden rather than a pleasure. This often happens when a relationship becomes one-sided, when you're constantly giving and receiving nothing in return. That resentment doesn't appear out of nowhere. It's a natural response to feeling used. Imagine you have a friend who always relies on you for advice, financial help, or emotional support. At first, you feel good about being there for them, but over time you notice a troubling pattern. They rarely listen to your struggles. The conversations are always about them, and they never acknowledge your efforts. Slowly, you start to dread their calls and feel exhausted just thinking about the relationship. Psychologists often point out that resentment is a major red flag in relationships. When a relationship loses balance, it's easy to feel unappreciated and even disrespected. This imbalance doesn't just weaken the bond, it can take a toll on your mental health, making you question your own worth. Stoic philosophy teaches us that balance and respect are the cornerstones of any healthy relationship. A relationship should never make you feel like you're fighting to be valued. Ask yourself, is this relationship truly adding value to my life? If the answer is no, it may be time to reevaluate and establish boundaries. Disliking someone you once cared for is often a clear sign they don't value you as they should. Don't hesitate to create distance if it means protecting your peace of mind. Your worth should never be compromised by unhealthy relationships. Thank you for staying with us until the end of this journey to uncover the signs that someone might be using you. As Stoic philosophy reminds us, life shouldn't be dominated by relationships that drain our mental and emotional strength. Instead, focus on building connections rooted in respect and equality. Remember, your worth isn't defined by what you do for others, but by how much you value yourself. Learning to say no, setting boundaries, and constantly evaluating whether your relationships are meaningful are essential to protecting your inner peace. If you recognize any of the signs we discussed today, consider this an opportunity to reassess. Ask yourself, is this relationship helping me grow, or is it wearing me down? Don't be afraid to create distance if it's necessary. You deserve relationships that respect and nourish you.